Hi everyone! Bit of a different start to a video today. I was asked if I could show my pen collection. Now I don't have a great deal of pens, but I was asked if I could do that anyway, having done one for my pencils a little while ago. Sorry about this glare, let's just open this tin and that might help things a little bit. So I thought I would show the different pens that I have. I don't have many. Now this set here is a Winsor & Newton watercolour pen set. It's not one that I bought. My husband bought it thinking they would work like watercolour pens. They don't. I'll just show you one. So you've got a sort of big brush tip on this end. Hang on, I can just show you. So, which, you know, quite thick. And then on this end you have a sort of more pointy tip for slightly apparently finer work, but they've been used a lot, so they probably can't get such a fine line. Now these are very expensive and whoops, I wouldn't recommend them. Perhaps I don't know how to use them, but if you wet it, it does nothing. It just sits there. And I expected for a watercolour it would sort of move and they might blend. I've never been able to do that with them. Some of them have actually run out. I don't know why I haven't got rid of them, the ones that have run out. But for me, these are too expensive. There are probably much cheaper watercolour markers out there if you want to experiment with them. But what I would recommend is if you fancy using a watercolour marker, find a YouTube video where someone demonstrates how to use them, because I might just be doing it all wrong. So that's those. Those I don't use them very often because they're very thick. They're not very good for colouring, in my opinion. I'm always worried about them going through the page, but they don't. But even so, that's those. That's my first set of pens. Now I have this set here. Now this is a set. Now there's a couple of pens from a different set tucked in here. These two here. These two, oops, were from a Legami pen set called, they were all different gemstones. So this one's pink sapphire, this one's black diamond. Now they're really small. I did do a little review of these and they ran out really quickly, which you will probably expect for a small barrel. I've got, there's a little bit left in there. Sorry for the glare of the light. This is a glitter pen set called Bitoon. Now, these were gifted to me, but I found them on Amazon when I did a review of them. But I think they're also on the cheaper sites, Temu and Shein, maybe, I'm not sure. The only problem with these is that the silver glitter pen in my set was just a metallic, it wasn't glittery, and these two are yellow and gold and I couldn't really tell the difference. Not that that's a problem because it's they're nice colour. And again, I don't mind having a metallic pen. I was just a little bit confused. But that's those. They're quite, I found them fine. The tips are quite narrow. It says 1 mil. I don't think they really were. They seem quite narrow, which was quite good for detailed work and highlights and bits and pieces. So they're quite a nice little set if you like your glitter pens, and a budget set, as I said. So that's those. Now we have my expensive pens. Again, the glare from the light. I'm sorry, I can't turn it off. It's so dark in here. These are Sakura Gelly-Rolls. Now, I love these pens. This is a metallic set. I have a Stardust set, which are glitter, and a Moonlight set, which are really fine. They're only 0.35 mils. These are about 8 or 10, I think. I'm not sure. It probably said somewhere, but I'm not sure. It doesn't say on the front. Anyway, these are thicker. They're good quality, but they're expensive. Now this set of colours is a little bit strange, but you can get mix sets with lots of different colours, some with metal metallic, some are glitter, some are plain, and you can get a much nicer range in America than you can in the UK. I'm not sure why, but these are nice. I can use them for little dots and highlights and things like that on top of pencil. And obviously metallics and glitters are always nice for sort of stars and moons and little highlights, wings and things like that. So those are good too. Now I have found that the silver and gold, I always run out much more quickly than the rest, and you can buy them singly. So I've replace these because I use them much more than the other colours, but you can buy all of them singly, not just the silver and gold, just to explain. But they are an expensive brand, Japanese, good quality, but some people prefer the Pentel ones, which I used to have and I've run out of, but I find because the glitter is a different colour to the pen, I get a bit confused when I'm using them because I'm never sure what to expect. Now these are my Poscas. Now I've got a bit of a mix. I've got some pastel Poscas, which are these, I think. Those, I think. Oh, and some of these blues. These are sort of pastel-y ones. Now you can buy these single, but I think I got these pastel ones in a set. I might have had that yellow in it as well. This yellow is very well used, though. It wouldn't come in that set. So these are the pastel ones. They're quite nice for sort of flower centres or little highlights and bits and pieces. I don't use them as often as some of the others. The black is really good if you want to do a black background. But this is quite a thin one. All of these are the PC1MR size, which is the only one with the little tip like that. I can't do a pin type tip. I've got a pen all over me. I haven't even... That's the green right from the beginning. You probably saw me do it. You can get thicker black, so if you're doing a really big black page, it's probably better to get a thicker one as well. But I just always get this size because they're quite versatile and I like being able to use little details. I've also got, as you can see, an orange, a green, a purple, a sort of fluorescent pink, a darker blue. Now these are a red and that sort of mid blue. These are metallics. I did have more metallics, but they've run out. I had a gold. I think there was there a purple? Am I dreaming it? I don't know. Anyway, the metallics. Again, these are really similar to any other metallic pen. The only thing with a Posca is you have to shake it. Can you hear? There's a little ball bearing or something in there. And you have to pump the end to get the ink out. So sometimes they don't flow as well as a Gellyroll because they've got the roller ball. But, you know, these are acrylic paint in here, whereas obviously the Gellyroll are the gel. Neither go through the page in most colouring books. Obviously it depends on the book, the paper, everything else. Always try them in the back first. Don't, like with the black, some people will do a layer of pencil first and then put the black on top because the pencil protects it from going through. I've used them in Johanna Basford books. I've never found it goes through, but what I do find is if you colour then on the back, the black transfers onto the next page in the same way a pencil might, which is what I didn't really expect that to happen. You have to put a piece of paper in there, but that's fine. But that's the Poscas. I think for me, Posca and Sakura are pretty much very similar in quality. Obviously they're a different thing, and you've got a much small, you haven't got glitter in Posca pens, so if you want glitter pens then you're not going to get it in your Poscas. Then I have a few more, a random selection here. I was gifted these two. These are hybrid gel grip pens made by Pentel, and they're a gold and a silver. They are great pens actually. If you have a look, they're quite thin. They look like just a rollable. They're quite nice pens to use. As I say, quite thin. I haven't used them much because they've made their way down to the bottom of my pen box, but that's those. I also have this one. I had two of it. I had a gold as well, but it must be right at the bottom of the box. Now these have got a ball in like the Posca, and they have a sort of pumpy hang on, you have to pump the nib up and down to get it to flow, although you can see it's a very, very bright silver. It's almost like a chromium type pen, but the only thing is with this is it goes through the page. The colour doesn't, but it's got, because it's oil based, I don't know if you can see that, the oil goes through the page. So you can really only use it on single-sided books, but I've got quite a few of those, so you know, that's all fine. And it's shiny, so much more shiny than other pens. So I haven't got a name on here, it just says silver marker, So it came in a blister pack with a gold, which I said has somehow made its way somewhere. It's probably on the floor under my desk. You know how it is. Now I also have 2 of these, but one of them's disappeared for now. This is a blender pen, so it's very different. It's these I use for blending pencil. They're very good, but they run out very quickly and they are a bit smelly. There is a way to refill them, but it's not official. But I've seen some videos where people have managed to remove this end and refill it, but it seems really complicated. What I find easier is if you do want to put blending solution into a pen, use a Copic marker. You can buy an empty Copic marker and fill it with something like Zest It, which is a UK brand. I know Jackson's do their own blending fluid. You can also buy this one in America. I'm trying to think what it's called. But if you buy the runny, you can use a pipette and just fill it up, which is what I do sometimes with my Copic, which I didn't bring through here. So I've got another blending pen. And lastly, I've got a few more, mainly whites. These are black. This is black, actually. These 2 are black. These are both Gellyroll, so Sakura. This is just a black. Which is number 6, so it's 6, so it's quite a narrow one, like those Moonlight pens. And this one is a Glaze pen. Now I find the Glaze pens, although I've used nearly all of it, I find they can go a little bit sticky because they produce a shiny look, which can be rather nice. I don't know if I can demonstrate it very well. So this is the Glaze. Oh, it's clogged up. There we go. I think. Let me just check. Yes. And this is the non-glaze. It's a thinner nib. You can see one looks a little bit lighter. I'll hold it up in a minute. If I hold it up, oops, to the camera, you can see the one at the back, how it catches the light. Maybe. So there's a little bit of a difference between those 2. So as I say, the glaze can be a bit sticky. I used it on a page where I used it for a border. There was a double page spread and there were borders on both sides and they matched. And when I shut the page, when I open the page, I can feel slight resistance where they've stuck together. Just to be a little bit careful, but they're still quite nice effect. Now this one is a Gellyroll Stardust, but this is the number 700, which is just glitter. So when you use it, I'll show you on here. When you use it, it just produces glitter. So there's no gel in there. So if I hold it like that, you can see it's catching the light, but the silver you're seeing is the glitter, not a coloured gel. So you can put it over the top of anything you want and it just makes it shine. I think it's very similar to, oh no, there's something called Wink of Stella, which I think adds a clear glaze in the way those Glaze pens work. This is a bit different because it's actually glitter, so it's works a little bit differently. That's that one. Lastly, we have my whites. Now, I have quite a selection of white pens, as you can see. So this is a Posca white. They come in different sizes. As I said before, I like my PC1MR, but you can get really thick. You can get the bullet tips that look like this, that look like that tip. You can get ones like that, and in various thicknesses. And you can get a brush tip as well in a white, which I've tried. I didn't get on with it myself, but you know, it's up to you to try different ones and see what works. But I like this because it's small. It's a 0.7 mil, so you can do a little dot, some dots in the sky for stars, fireworks, little flower seeds, all things, and you get a little bit of detail, so that's nice. So that's that one. But I also like my Gellyroll whites, and I've got the 3 different sizes. So I've got a 10, an 8 and a 5. I think that's a 1 or 0.1, 0.8, I can't remember. But the 5 is great for teeny details, but it clogs because it's so small. The 10 is much more free flowing because it's much bigger. So that's nice. And but the 8 is just sort of average size sort of thing. I have this one, which is a Uniball pigment ink white, and it says it's broad. I don't use it that much. I pinched it off my husband, as you do. But it is just a good white pen. It's as good as anything, really, I think. And then these I was gifted quite recently. You can see there's 2 missing. One I've nearly run out already. These, because they're a 1mm, so they're the equivalent to the Gellyroll 10, they flow really, really nicely. And so you can get a nice thick line. You can, and it doesn't clog, it's nice and juicy, that sort of thing, which is really good. Just found another set of pens I forgot to show you. I'll show you them in a minute. So these are good. These are from Temu, I think. And yeah, I was impressed, to be honest. I thought, oh, I'm not sure, don't know that brand, blah, blah, blah. And the person who sent it to me is like, I find these really good, and yet they are really good. And I use them a fair bit, actually. So that's good. And I'm assuming they're cheaper than the Gelly-Rolls, but I don't know how much they are. I'm lucky I get sent things, so I don't really know what prices. Lastly, I said the whites were last, but I found these. These are Staedtler metallic pens. I've done a review of these. Now these are quite thick pens. They're 1 to 2 mil, it says. So how I interpreted that was that you would potentially be able to get, you can get a light, or if you press gently, or a thick. Thin or thick. Can you see? It depends how hard you press. And they show up really nicely on black paper, as you can see here. There. But on white paper, they show up too. Here's some white paper. So, and they've got, the thing with these is, they don't shine as well as, let's say, here's a Posca. Let's compare them. Let's compare a few. That might be useful. So here's a silver. Now silvers are usually quite good. So here's the silver. That's the Staedtler. Okay. And this is a Posca. You can see the thickness of the line. Oh, this does need a shake. I'll shake it right by the microphone. Now, see, Posca, you have to do this to get it going. There we go. That's a Posca. Compare with this one, which is the Pentel. Compared with, what other silvers have I got? Oh, let's use this Gellyroll silver. And then, oops, we won't use the glitter because it's not good. And then we've got this chrome one. And I'll hold them up to the camera so you can see the difference. See, when you shine them and put them on the light, they all look quite similar. But when you tip them, you can see, I think the fact that these two are look better might just be more to do with the thickness of the pen than the actual, although this one is absolutely, the chrome one is definitely brighter. And if you put something over that, it actually reflects it. It's not as good as one I've had before, but it's almost like mirror-like, you know. But as I say, it does go through. I can see it. Even on the black that goes through. Should we do the same test on white paper? Because most of us use white paper, don't we? We don't use black paper. So here's the Staedtler. Here's the Posca, which doesn't want to write very well. This is my problem with Posca, is that you have to keep priming them. I've got a video showing how to do that. I've got video on everything. This is the Pentel. Then we have the Gellyroll. And then we have this one. There we go. Let's have a look. Oh, let's get the lid back on first. Whoa, look at, you can see the difference so clearly. It's like it's a flashing light. So that is them like that. You see, this one looks almost black at the bottom, or very dark grey, but as soon as you start turning to the light, you can really see the difference, can't you? So the Staedtler is actually the dullest of them all, although they're all quite similar. The thing I find with the Staedtlers is the nib is very thick. So it'd be fine for a background, but trying to get it around, like it's nearly as thick, it's thicker than that there, which was the Winsor & Newton watercolour pens. So if you're trying to colour around something, it's quite difficult to get around the details without going over the lines, for me anyway. Now we'll look at the back of the paper. I haven't gone through too much. You can see a bit of ghosting. But yeah. So if you want something really shiny, I can find out what this was called, but I can't remember. It says Zebra A/S made in China. Silver marker. But look, it's got warnings on it. I think this sort of thing, I would always wash your hands. I do anyway, even if I've just been using standard pencils, but particularly markers, you know, I wouldn't go and have something to eat and drink without washing that, even though it won't come off. Just, you know, wash the initial layer off. So that is a really shiny one. So if I was going to recommend a pen, I would probably recommend the Gelly-Rolls, but they're so expensive. And if you're going to a cheap place and you're buying a few things, and so you need to make up some postage or something like that, or you're in a shop, because Gelly-Rolls you can't buy in the shops in the UK, you know, maybe try with a few other things, you know, with like metallics and glitter pens. I would think that maybe even kids' ones might be worth a try, you know, because you're not usually making a whole page out of it. You're just doing a little highlight here and there. So maybe you don't need a really expensive one. Now, other pens that I do have here, which I'm not going to show you, have some Edding pens, which are whiteboard markers, which I would never use for colouring. But I know some people use Sharpies and things because they're oil-based. And I can see why. I've watched videos of people using like a Hoo and Copic markers. And I can see why they use them, because the way they just sort of go on the paper, it looks quite neat and tidy and looks fairly easy once you've got the gist of it. But for me, the smell, now none of these pens smell, apart from the blender, which the blending fluid smells. I can't smell them, but maybe some people might, depends how sensitive you are. This one is more likely. But I don't like, for me, some of the markers, the smell. I've tried colouring with a Sharpie. We had one in the house. You know how you have things hanging around. And I thought, what's all this fuss about? I'm going to have a go. And I just did it on some sort of mandala or something. And the smell, it made my head ache and I felt dizzy. That's horrible. I was like, how do people do this? Obviously not everyone's sensitive to it, but it is worth bearing that in mind. Whatever pens, if you're buying an oil-based, water-based markers don't smell, and the acrylics don't, and gel pens don't. But if you're buying anything alcohol markers, then find out before you buy them, just to be absolutely sure, because, you know, if someone's demonstrating them in a YouTube video, put a comment and ask them what they smell like. You know, is there a smell? What's it like? They might tell you anyway in the video, but find out, because if you're sensitive to it, you might end up wasting a lot of money. But there we go. I'm going to stop blabbing about pens. I don't know much about them, but that's all I know really. And that's all I have. But my friend did ask me to do a little review, so Rabia, I've done it for you. So I hope it was useful and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you all for watching, and happy colouring.